Playbook, a football podcast. With your hosts, Ashley and Mike. Please sit back and enjoy the show.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Undroppables Playbook, a football podcast presented by the Undroppables. I am your host, Ashley. This is my lovely co-host, Michael Duncan. How are you doing tonight?
I feel like I'm aging about 6 years every single day as this game gets closer.
Yeah. It's our favorite show my favorite show of the year. I'm not going to speak for you. It's Super Bowl preview. And the Philadelphia Eagles will be facing the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yes, they will be.
They will.
They're a commanding win last week.
Yeah, we'll give you some insights into that. We'll give you like 2 minutes. But first, I just want some news. Myles Garrett has requested a trade from the Browns. Not surprising. Who wants to be a part of that dumpster fire?
In a really polite way, too, by the way.
Yeah, he did
it really nicely.
Mm-hmm. A lot of terrible bad news coming out of Baltimore with Justin Tucker. Basically in the same realm as Deshaun Watson. And there are a lot of things floating about how the Ravens probably knew about this. A lot of the insiders were talking about how they kind of had insight and like couldn't confirm the story for a little while, or people kind of tipped them off in advance and they were, investigating. And it all comes out now that Justin Tucker has been banned from massage parlors and sexually assaulting women is what's coming out from the Ravens. He denies that. They always do. And next is Cowboys did end up hiring Brian Schottenheimer. Okay, time for the Super Bowl. All right. Do you want to tell us last week real quick how we got here?
Well, the first game of the week was Eagles versus Commanders. The Eagles put up 55 points, which was the most they've put up all season. By a fair margin. And I believe the most ever put up in an NFC championship game. I kind of forget all the stats now, but there was a lot of them of like how good of a performance this was and blah, 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 blah. It wasn't, it was a game until I would say roughly like 3 minutes left in the first half where the Eagles managed to close out the half with two scores in the final like 2.5 minutes before getting the ball in the second half and just ending the game. Yeah. It was a dominant performance by the defense, by Jalen Hurts, talking about how he had his straitjacket removed after the game. Obviously, Saquon Barkley had an awesome game with some big runs, some long runs. He started the first game. The first play from scrimmage for the Philadelphia Eagles was a 60-plus yard run for Saquon Barkley, who is now like not many yards short for the most all-time single season rushing yards, including the playoffs. He will likely surpass Terrell Davis in the Super Bowl. But yeah, overall a very dominant win and the kind of win that it makes you feel a lot more comfortable going into the Super Bowl. I'll say that. That's followed by the game of the week, I guess, if there's two of them. But it's the one that everyone wanted to see. It's kind of the one that we're all sort of penciling in every season in the playoffs, the same way we used to with Peyton and Tom. It's now Josh and Patrick. And once again, unfortunately, the refs, it was a conversation about the refs. Mm-hmm. I'm not here to say that the NFL is rigged or that they're showing favorites or whatever it is. It's just, I'm sure the Chiefs and the Bills would both agree that they would love for the game to not be about the refs afterward. But that is the way that it feels seemingly every single time they play. I mean, there's some missed calls, there were some non-calls, and there were some very questionable ball placements, which somehow we're still using, eyesight to determine in the year 2025. Hopefully that changes next year, as every time the Bills lose to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, there is a major rule change. And it sounds like that might be the case. But regardless, the Chiefs are moving on to the Super Bowl, setting up the rematch of 2 years ago with the Chiefs versus the Eagles.
Yeah. All right. let's get into it. Same as always. We'll give you some insights about location, time, all things like that. We're going to talk about the teams a little bit, and then we'll jump into some of the fun stuff regarding ads and halftime show and prop bets. So we'll start out with the game itself. It is the Kansas City Chiefs or the Philadelphia Eagles. It airs on Sunday, February 9th at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The game will be on Fox, but it's also going to stream for free on Tubi, which is the first time that's happening. This is the 11th time that Fox is broadcasting the Super Bowl. The last time was actually the Kansas City-Philadelphia Super Bowl. Kevin Burkhardt will be on play-by-play, and Tom Brady will be on color commentary. And I made a note for you that Kurt Warner is doing color commentary on Westwood One Radio.
He actually does that a lot. He did. I believe he called the Eagles game on the radio actually last week.
Westwood One.
2 weeks ago, whatever.
Yep. The Super Bowl is held in the Caesars Superdome in New Orleans, Louisiana. It has a capacity for football of about 76,500. New Orleans is number 10 on the list of most Super Bowls hosted. I have a long list of years. It ranges from the 70s, but that was actually at Tulane, but it was still, in New Orleans from the 70s. The last one was 2013, and that was power outage game. The Super Bowl with the lights went out. So fun.
That was a fun game.
The Superdome is hosting for the 8th time, which is the most out of all of the venues. New Orleans is expecting about 70,000 visitors for the game, and the average hotel rate for a night is about $650. The 2013 Super Bowl they hosted, they had a $480 million economic boost in the city. As for ticket prices, surprisingly, the ticket prices have plummeted about 58% in the last week. On some different vendors, Game Time, the cheapest seats are about 4,600. StubHub is about 3,300. Vivid
It's actually lower than that now.
Yep. Yeah, these might be a little bit outdated. But like not maybe a day. But Vivid Seats, 3,100. Would they go all the way up to $23,000? Obviously, they always do. But Game Time predicted that the ticket prices are going to bottom out today. And on game day, with prices going up and down a little bit more tomorrow and the day before the game. But it is a change in pace, considering last year was the most expensive Super Bowl to attend. Part of that is that it was Vegas, right? Like everybody wanted to be in Vegas, and why not spend, if I'm going to spend the money, might as well do it in Vegas. I can hear the thoughts in my head. So this is cheaper, but it is significantly cheaper than experts were expecting. Part of that seems to be the trend of people didn't really want these two teams, right? That is a big part of it. I can attest to that, trying to sell Super Bowl squares this year. That's illegal, isn't it? Not selling Super Bowl squares this year. So I'm pretty sure
illegal?
It's not. I'm pretty sure it's not legal in Massachusetts.
Oh, in Massachusetts. Well, they didn't know where you lived until now.
I've said it before, but whatever.
Oh.
They can come get me for Super Bowl squares. It is what it is. I'll be arrested for more things than that before I get arrested for Super Bowl squares.
Christ, just move on.
So that's part of it, is that the general audience wasn't the biggest fan of this matchup. Part of it, I'm sure, has to do with the fact that it is in New Orleans, who's had a rough couple of weeks after the terrorist attack right before the college football playoffs. New Orleans is hosting both this year, and assure the fans who are coming, the 70,000 people who are coming, that they have shored up their defenses and that it is very safe to be in New Orleans for the Super Bowl this year. What do I have next? Oh, the field. It is artificial turf. The Kansas City Chiefs are playing on a Super Bowl on artificial turf for the first time ever. They've
hear that, Mr. Sodfather?
Every time.
That's
why I leave this section in there for you.
Are not needed. Please stay the hell away from my Philadelphia Eagles and their cleats, Mr. Sodfather. I will never forgive you.
For you.
I consider you my biggest enemy. And I wish only doom upon you.
I can't. For the weather, it's a dome, but I will give you the weather outside anyway. It is a sunny day with a high of 79 and a low of 63. I want to go back to the field for a second. And I'm just gonna say it. I actually don't care anymore. We have one notable guest who will be attending, and that's a man who's orange. He will be the first sitting president.
To be clear, not
attend.
Gertie, because the first time I read your note, I was like, no, probably not.
Oh.
It's fires. I mean, he might. I have no idea. Gritty does.
Yeah.
He could be there naked.
Could.
I have no idea. He does whatever Gritty
That would be
wants
the
to
good
do.
orange man.
But
not the bad
legitimately,
orange
as
man.
I was reading your, I said the bad scary. You wrote the bad scary orange man is going. I was like,
Yep.
why is she reporting on Gritty?
Yeah.
And then the next
Imagine.
sentence is the first sitting president to attend.
Yeah,
So,
he will be the first sitting
makes
president to. We're talking about Donald Trump. He will be the first sitting president to attend the Super Bowl. And I want to go back to the field for a second. Maybe linked, maybe not. Who knows ever? The NFL is getting rid of its end racism emblem / saying that they put in the end zones. Instead, one of the end zones will say "Choose love," and the other will say "It takes all of us." It's the first time since 2021 that the end racism won't be in the end zones at the Super Bowl. Kansas City didn't have it in their the AFC Championship matchup. The Eagles did. In a time where we are targeting anything.
Well, honestly, Ashley, I think everyone's looking at it the wrong way. I think this means it's a good thing. Like, I think we
ended it?
We beat
Okay,
we
perfect.
beat racism. So like, why
we ended it. So like now we're just love.
Why would we keep talking about
It's
it?
all just love.
We beat it. It's over. Like, we did it.
Done.
So.
Done. So yeah, that was a huge piece of news this week. A lot of commentary about that. The NFL says like they're not rolling back DEI practices and equal opportunity hiring. They still stand by what they mean. They're just looking to change up the end zones. Anyway, let's talk about the game. Right? Yeah, okay. This is the Eagles' 5th Super Bowl appearance. Their last Super Bowl that they attended was the loss to Kansas City 2 years ago, 38-35. This is the Chiefs' 7th Super Bowl appearance, the 5th time in 6 years. They're only the 9th team to win back-to-back Super Bowls, and they're aiming for the three-peat and aiming to be the first to do it, to win 3 in a row. Oh, they are one of only 3 teams to appear in 3 straight Super Bowls. This is the Patriots and what was it? Packers?
Bills.
No. Bills. Okay.
Straight and lost all 4.
Yes. Yep. All 4. Yep. I knew that. This is the 10th Super Bowl rematch in the Super Bowl history. And it's Andy Reid Bowl 2.0.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Anything you want to give us before we talk about some questions?
I'm just glad the Sodfather isn't there. That's really
still thinking about him.
I'm not kidding you. My one buddy messaged our group chat before the Commanders game, and he goes, "Does anyone know like if the Sodfather is involved with the Super Bowl? Because if he is, I don't want to win. Like I don't want to go to the Super Bowl." My other buddy goes, "Don't worry, it's turf. We're all good." So
thank God.
No, we can get into the nitty gritty. I have a bunch of stuff written down, but
okay, awesome. So I'll get into the questions I have written down. It's kind of just the general gist. You guide us where you want to guide us. How did the Chiefs get here?
I mean, I think what you wrote is probably the most accurate. Yeah. Because again,
I wrote literal devil magic in case you're wondering.
And like the fact of the matter is they got here because of Andy Reid. They got here because of Steve Spagnuolo. They got here because of the good players on their team like Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Chris Jones. Some younger guys stepping up like Trent McDuffie, who had a great year. It's nothing crazy. It's nothing exciting. It's not all that different than what we've seen from them in recent years to an extent. Their passing offense as a whole has changed a decent amount. They're very much they live in yards after the catch. They're not throwing it deep all that much. It is a different offense than we've seen, but the general idea that they got here because of Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid is true.
Yep.
I mean, and throw in some of the closest, most ridiculous games I've ever seen. A stretch of I feel like 10 weeks where they won every single game, and everyone's kind of just being like, how are they not 5-5 in that stretch? And it's just because they made a deal with some devil at some point. I don't know. But,
yeah, it's like that red blood fountain outside of that hotel last week. Yeah, weird. They're have weird spells and omens under the stadium. Maybe weird Taylor Swift juju stuff. I don't know. But it was weird. It was a year where it didn't look like good football, right? It nothing about it was super appealing unless you were a Kansas City fan and they were winning, right?
I would disagree. I think it was even less appealing if you were a Kansas City fan. Just simply judging from the people in the Undroppables group chat who were constantly like, this is terrible.
This is terrible. Yeah. I mean, more so the outcome. right? The rest of us
No,
hated the
I
football and the
mean,
outcome.
I think
You'd
they
think
hated it
no,
more. I've
the
been there.
outcomes.
I've been there. Like I don't. Most people are not as self-hating as Philadelphia. Like I
Uh-huh.
understand that. I don't. No one will hate the Eagles after a win as much as Philadelphia, though.
Yeah.
Like we will watch it and want to like unalive ourselves because it's like, God, how did we win that game? We didn't deserve to win that game. We should have lost that game. I hated watching every second. It is literally that meme of like, oh boy, I can't wait to watch the Eagles. The entire game is just like, I want to kill myself. And then at the very end, it's like, oh, okay, cool, we won. It's like
Yeah.
that every single week. And I think the Chiefs got a lot of that this season with
Okay,
the way
I
they
can
were
see
winning
that.
games.
I just think part of my point is it was just not fun. It wasn't
Yeah.
a really great product, right? It was a
For
little
anyone.
sloppy. No, for anyone. A lot of the games centered like they do with the Chiefs around the refs, and a lot of it came down to last minute scores. I think their point differential this year was insanely low.
Yeah.
And yes, that is a testament to the fact that Patrick Mahomes can do that. Andy Reid and Steve Spags and all of the players you named can do that. They can be in these situations and still win. That's a testament in and of itself, 100%. But that's not the norm of what we've seen from the Kansas City Chiefs the last couple of years. They've destroyed opponents. They've looked like it was ballet on the football field, right? Like everything clicked all the time. This was not one of those years for the Kansas City Chiefs. There were points where it was like, okay, when is it coming crumbling down? Because it will before the Super Bowl. And it didn't. And I think a lot of that is a testament to the coaches. I think Steve Spags and that defense is still incredible. And what Steve Spags has done is truly remarkable. Andy Reid is Andy Reid. And you have talent on your roster. And I think that's what makes a difference between other teams who were between Minnesota Vikings and between Kansas City Chiefs, right? You have an immense amount of talent. And that's not to say there isn't talent on the Minnesota Vikings, but you look at the Vikings in those games 2 years ago with the very close one score games, that makes or breaks a team in those situations. So it's a testament to that. And I think just really good coaching.
Yeah, agreed.
Your beloved Eagles, tell us how they got here.
It started because Howie Roseman decided that he was just going to throw a perfect game this offseason. I mean, like it wasn't actually a perfect game. They paid Bryce Hoff a lot of money to do nothing, but ultimately it didn't matter because he signed, he signed Defensive Player of the Year candidate Zach Bond, who, if his name was Patrick Queen, would be winning Defensive Player of the Year, but his name is Zach Bond, and Ashley still doesn't remember
Not
his
Bond.
name, so that's why he's not winning. I mean, he drafted Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, who are both up for Defensive Rookie of the Year in the first and second round at cornerback. Re-signed C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who has been a steady, presence in the defensive backfield. There's this guy named Saquon Barkley who rushed for over 2,000 yards behind the best offensive line in football and is up for Offensive Player of the Year, and he's up for MVP. So that's a pretty good one. And more important than maybe anything is a man named Vic Fangio, a very old and disgruntled man who is the perfect defensive coordinator for the Eagles. I've been saying it for years. I've been saying it for lots of years. It's the best, it is the best advantage in football to have that old man at defensive coordinator that's not going to leave to go be a head coach, and he's just going to do his thing. And what he's done this year is masterful. I mean, obviously, you have to give credit to Howie Roseman and the way that he's built this team and that defense and the way that he just revamped that defense, because their secondary last year was horrible.
Yeah.
But wow. I mean, Quinyon Mitchell, Darius Slay, Cooper DeJean, Reed Blankenship, the Exciting Whites, obviously. Kobe Dean before he went down at linebacker.
Mustard.
And then you've got Jalen Carter, who I don't remember if he's actually up for Defensive Player of the Year. He's definitely in that conversation of like one of the best defensive linemen in the league. He's not going to win Defensive Player of the Year. I don't think he's up for it. But yeah, it's just an incredible team, and Vic Fangio has just been able to do everything that needs to be done with that defense. And when you combine that with Saquon and the ability to just run all over people, and honestly, more than anything, is a guy who's he's not getting the credit he deserves, and that's Jalen
Mhm.
Hurts. Because after the bye week, the coaching staff pulled him aside and said, hey, we need to do this if we want to win, and it's not going to involve you throwing for 200 yards a game.
Yeah.
And a lot of quarterbacks are not going to do that. But instead, he's thrown one interception since week 4, their bye week.
Mhm.
He has thrown 206 pass attempts without an interception in the playoffs, I think. Yeah, that sounds right. That sounds like too many. Whatever. He's on 206 straight pass attempts without an interception, and he also doesn't have one thrown in the playoffs.
Okay.
And he is just doing exactly what the Eagles need him to do to win on a week-to-week basis, and it doesn't reflect well on him. And he
Mhm.
just doesn't care because he only cares about winning. It's about the culture that Nick Sirianni, who was on the hot seat going into week 4 this season,
Going into the season.
going into the season and going into week 4 of this season, he was on the hot seat. And the way that he has controlled this team and got them to rally around each other and only care about winning football games is the reason they're here. So, and yes, they are prompted up by arguably the most talented roster in the NFL. But
Mhm.
those types of things didn't help them last year when they cratered into the earth after a 10-1 start or whatever it was.
Yeah, and that's kind of just what my answer is. I think it's Howie Roseman and Lori, right? It's the ability to maintain staff, to overcome the challenges of staff you can't maintain, to put together a roster without putting yourself in such a bad place that it becomes unrecoverable. Like the Eagles are still in a good spot and people didn't think they would be. Cap wise, all of it. And I think the leash in which Lurie gives Howie Roseman to operate is a huge key to success. Things that look like they would not work for anyone else somehow work for Howie Roseman. And I think that is like a true key for me, because if the off season was different, this team doesn't come close, I don't think, right? Like I think that the off season was the key for the Eagles this year, and they were able to mentally, physically, like roster wise recover from the season before and get their heads on right and come back. And I think that is a testament to how the team is built, truly. And on Saquon Barkley, that's the answer. I'm sad I don't like that answer. But it's Saquon. It's an easy answer with Saquon, and that's because of Lurie and Roseman.
Yeah. Good words.
Let's talk about what the Chiefs need to do to win this game.
All right. So there's a couple things. And I have notes written down. They are a little sporadic. Yeah, extremely. But one of the biggest things is their ability to stop the tush push. Last week, there were 3 failed sneaks for the Bills, which is the most ever in a single game. And that was because the Chiefs went in there, because Steve Spagnuolo is a crazy person. They went in there with a plan on how to stop that sneak. And if there's one thing Steve Spagnuolo is very good, especially in the playoffs, it is game planning for a particular opponent. And putting that game plan into action. And that is a huge thing on his resume that he did last week, and it's going to come up this week because it's the tush push, and it changes the way that the Eagles offense is allowed to play the game. They're allowed to operate with all 4 downs to a ridiculous degree in a way that most other teams can't. If it's 3rd and 1, they can go for they can go for a 20, 30-yard completion down the field, knowing that even if it drops incomplete, okay, well, we're just going to tush push anyway. They don't have to take 2 opportunities to try and get that first down.
Yep.
That gives them an extra down to play with for free. And that's simply because the tush push is unstoppable. So it's going to come down.
It gives them an ability to get given a touchdown by the referee.
We didn't even talk about that.
I know.
Remind me to talk about that at the end, because that was one of the most incredible things I've ever seen. But also, it's going to be in my opinion, one of the biggest things that I'm scared of as an Eagles fan, and when I'm looking at this
Okay.
Eagles team that the Chiefs can take advantage of, is since week 4, take a guess on how many passes Jalen Hurts has thrown in the second half of a game since week
Okay.
4 while losing, while behind.
How many weeks is that? Since what week?
Since week
4?
4. That was their bye week. So week 5 to now, including the playoffs.
And how many passes total?
In the second half of those games while trailing?
40.
13.
I was gonna say 12, and I felt like that was too low. That's insane.
It's ridiculous. Like, for
That's
reference,
insane.
that could be one game.
Literally.
And
when trailing, especially.
And I believe that only happened. All of those attempts were in 2 games. It was against the Panthers, weirdly enough, and then that second game.
Oh my
No,
God.
it wasn't against the Commanders because he had the. I think it was one of the games against the Commanders. Insane.
That's terrible.
Yeah,
That's scary.
So yeah, that's the thing. It's like, on one hand, if you're the Eagles, you're saying, well, we don't trail very often. And when we do, it's not that they're not trailing necessarily, but it's that they can feel comfortable saying,
okay,
here you go, Saquon.
Yeah.
I'm not going to change the way I'm going to play, because Saquon, his numbers in the second half of games this year are ridiculous because he's grinding them down. The defensive line is getting grinded down by this incredible offensive line and the massive bodies they have there. So it's not like they're not trailing. It's just they're not trailing by enough for it to matter that much. They have not been down multiple scores in the second half since week 4, since their bye week. Not one of those games have they been down multiple scores in the second half. It has only ever been 1 or less. So yeah, that's if you get the Eagles into an uncomfortable position, the fact of the matter is, maybe they come out of it great because Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback. He just doesn't have to do that. But the fact of the matter is you're putting them in a situation that they haven't been. And that's horrifying if the first time you're doing that is in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. So that's something to keep an eye on. The other thing is they need to get better in the red zone. The Chiefs offense has been the second best in the NFL this year at driving the ball into the red zone. But once they're in the red zone, their touchdown rate is only 53.8%, which is an all-time low for the Chiefs under Andy Reid. The Eagles' defense, on the other hand, ranks number 7 in rate of drives allowed into the red zone and number 5 in red zone touchdown rate. You put those numbers together, and that is a massive advantage in the Eagles' favor. The Chiefs need to be able to convert into touchdowns because the Eagles will be able to. That's a strength of theirs because once they get in there, they have the tush push, they have the run game, they have a lot of different things. They're going to put up points. The Chiefs need to be able to get touchdowns and not field goals. And in that, I have a really fun stat. This is from Sharp Football Analysis that I just thought was really cool, and I couldn't even try to sum it up. Where is it? No, where is it? No, I can't find it.
How'd you lose it?
I wish I could tell you.
Well, can you give us a summary?
Oh, yeah, wait, no, here it is. So it's Reid and Mahomes against Vic Fangio. In the 8 games versus Fangio's defense, the Chiefs have, and this is in the past however many number of years, the Chiefs have scored 21 touchdowns. 15 of them were total offensive touchdowns in 8 games. Only 4 of 8 of those games featured 2 passing touchdowns. 0 games featured more than 2 passing touchdowns. In these 8 games, KC's special teams saw 23 field goals attempted and 23 field goals made. The Chiefs ended up kicking 10 field goals from inside the 10-yard line and an additional 6 field goals from 11 to 20-yard line. That is 16 red zone field goals. The bottom line is that over 8 games, Mahomes and Reid against Vic Fangio, the Chiefs offense has scored 15 touchdowns and settled for 23 field goals. In all other games not against Fangio in that period of time, the Chiefs offense scored 216 touchdowns and settled for 113 field goals. That just goes to show again, Vic Fangio is doing something right, and that is something that the Chiefs need to be able to overcome if they're going to win this game.
Yeah, and you can't rely on that anymore. Harrison
Oh,
Butker has not been the same after a season riddled with injuries. Your kicking game is not the same. And the league has been better overall this year at blocking kicks.
yeah,
You can't
agreed.
rely on that. You can't rely on that.
And then, of course, the defense, they need to get after Jalen Hurts.
Yep.
Jalen Hurts has gotten better against the blitz since recent seasons. In this season versus like last season, the year before. Spagnuolo had a 34.9 blitz rate, which was second in the league this year. And since the bye week, Hurts is 47 of 73 for 648 and 7 touchdowns with 0 interceptions when facing the blitz. He also has a quarterback rating of 124.7, which ranks second in the NFL over that span. Long story short, Jalen Hurts has been a lot more efficient and a lot safer when being blitzed. It's not going to be like it was in previous years. So that being said, you're going to need to get pressure by only bringing 4. Or if you do blitz, you better get home because it's clear that Jalen Hurts has figured it out. The offense has figured it out. They've given him the tools to succeed in order to, do what he has to do against that blitz to not let it kill them, which is, again, you can look at the interceptions, the turnovers. He's just playing a safer game right now because he knows he doesn't have to play Euroball. So the Chiefs need to do something different, whether it's exotic blitzes, whether it's a lot more stunts or whatever. The advantages they have upon the offensive line is the offensive line has not been great this postseason, and the interior especially. Mekhi Becton had a rough game against the Rams. Cam Jurgens and Landon Dickerson, who split time at center last week in a very weird, bizarre turn, or 2 weeks ago against the Commanders, in a very bizarre, weird turn of events, they were both very injured. They're both full participants, but we'll see. It's week 22 of the NFL season. And guess what? Every offensive lineman is banged up, those guys especially. And Jordan Mailata, while as incredible as he's been, he's gotten beat before. So the Eagles' offensive line is incredible, especially run blocking, but they're beatable pass blocking, especially in the interior as of late. So Steve Spagnuolo needs to do some weird stuff. This isn't a home game for the Eagles. Well, it might be. But they need to do weird stuff to throw them off balance. And we've seen more than, time and time again that the one thing Jalen Hurts hasn't really gotten better at is throwing the ball away and avoiding a big sack.
Yep.
He took sacks that took them out of field goal range multiple times this postseason, later in the season. And he's just, holds on a little bit too much. It's better than throwing an interception. It's not often turned into a fumble. But that is something where the Eagles offense is beatable, especially because of Jake Elliott's struggles this season from deep, especially. I don't believe he's made a 50-yard field goal this season, which in past years was his calling card. In the Eagles Super Bowl season, he made multiple kicks of over 60-plus yards. And now you have to feel a little less comfortable if you're the Eagles saying, 57 yards, Jake's going to hit it. Now they have to play it a little safer, and a big sack can really screw up their ability to, score points on a drive, and every point is going to matter in this one.
Yep. You sum it up better. I'll give a couple of very quick thoughts. One, keys to success for me, Chris Jones, and just the defensive line as a whole. Philadelphia Eagles run inside zone. Oh my God, what was the percentage? I had it pulled up a couple minutes ago. They're something like, oh my God, I can't remember what they run inside zone at a high rate. Okay. And the Chiefs allow 4.3 yards per play on inside zone, and that's 22nd in the NFL. That's not an effective way to win this game. Not at all. So you're going to have to switch up your run defense. You're going to have to rely on Chris Jones a lot. I think another thing is the answer somehow always comes back to Travis Kelce in these big games, right? Since losing to Kobe Dean, the Eagles have struggled with tight ends. And that this is where Travis Kelce shines always somehow. No matter what he does in the regular season, in games like this, it's always for Travis Kelce. So I think finding a way to incorporate him in the offense is a huge key to success here. And Mahomes has to find ways. I think the Eagles, it'll be part of my next thing. The Eagles are going to have to really keep him in that pocket. He's going to have to find ways to manipulate that. The second he's out of the pocket, he is going to have a really hard time. I think he is going to have to find ways to stay like to move around, and manipulate a pocket if he is forced to stay in one.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. Okay. Tell us about the Eagles.
So it's funny. When I was like kind of putting this list together,
Mhm.
I have limiting Travis Kelce as a key to the Eagles'
Mhm.
success, and I realized
Yep.
like the key to one person's success is also the key to the other team's
Yeah.
success. It's
Yep.
just doing the opposite thing.
Yep.
So like everything I had written down, some of them I had under the Eagles, some of them it's
Yep.
like it's all kind of the same. But yeah, limit Travis Kelce. Last week against the Commanders in the NFC title game, the Eagles, former Eagle great Zach Ertz had 11
Yes.
catches for 104 yards.
Did you
And
see the video?
of him and Fletcher Cox?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you think you're sad. I remember where I was when Zach Ertz got traded. I was in London.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
was
you were
on
at the London going to the London game, right?
Yeah, well,
Mhm.
I didn't go I went to help my friend move to London, but
Yeah, but like I'm saying, that was when we talked about that
yes.
people would know about.
I recorded a solo podcast, and I'm
You
pretty sure
did
it was
from
like
London.
it was 30 minutes, and I think 15 of them were
We're
glazing
talking
Zach
about
Ertz.
London.
No,
Yeah.
talking about Zach Ertz.
And I think the other half is literally just talking
Yeah,
about London.
probably. Yeah, that's why I shouldn't do solo pods, and why I haven't done one since. But that being said, the divisional round, Tyler Higbee hauled in 7 catches for 54 yards and I believe a touchdown as well. Zach Ertz is a large part of the reason that game was as close as it was for the period of time that it was. And even it's why you didn't feel totally comfortable in the later parts of that game, because he just found ways to get open. And Zach Ertz is old, man. I mean, I love him. I
Yeah.
love him to death.
I always forget that until I see like a picture, like the video of him in Fletcher Cox is like, and then I'm like, wow, man, he's old. In my head, he's still like very young.
He was the same draft as Lane Johnson.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, quite a first draft for Chip Kelly. I'll give him that.
Yeah.
That's all I'll give him. But pretty important because they have Travis Kelce this week. Oren Burks, who is the fill-in for Nakobe Dean with the injury, who has played admirably, actually played. I didn't realize this. He played for the 49ers last year, and he had to fill in for injury in the Super Bowl and was tasked with covering Travis Kelce in Travis Kelce's very, very good game in the Super Bowl last year. So, yeah, hoping to God that Vic Fangio does not have Oren Burks, and I don't think Oren Burks should be covering. I think it's much more likely that they look to maybe Cooper DeJean, maybe CJGJ. I think Vic's going to get a little weird with it. They might even double cover him because, honestly, a positive when it comes to the secondary is Quinyon Mitchell's fine on an island. Darius Slay is fine on an island. And that gives them a lot of positives in terms of like the numbers for a matchup. So yeah, that's really good. So I'm on the Eagles. Yes, limiting Travis Kelce is going to be a huge key to success because Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce have a very good relationship on and off the field. Going to the other side, the Eagles' passing attack is the second best passing attack in the NFL against man coverage. However, they struggle immensely against zone coverage. They're the number 2 pass. I don't know why I wrote that twice. In the regular season, the Chiefs played man coverage at the 10th highest rate. That's still only 30% of opponent dropbacks, but in the playoffs, they have held relatively steady with a 33% man coverage rate. Like I said earlier, Steve Spagnuolo is a guy that is going to game plan for a specific team. And I guess this is probably a little bit more of a Chiefs key to win than an Eagles key to win, but it's really going to be about what that matchup is going to be, because I have a feeling that Steve Spagnuolo is going to rely heavily on zone rather than man. The big chess piece there, I think, is Trent McDuffie, who, again, has been an awesome cornerback for the Chiefs this year after their lead guy from years past left in free agency. And it's who A.J. Brown scored his touchdown against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. And the big question is, will Trent McDuffie be shadowing A.J. Brown? Because if he is, I think the smaller Trent McDuffie, the Eagles are really going to like that matchup. And I think if they get that matchup, the Eagles have to exploit it. And another thing Jalen Hurts has been really, really not shy about this season is checking out of plays and checking into plays at the offensive line, at the line of scrimmage. And I think if he sees that matchup, I mean, you saw it on 4th down against the Commanders last week, on that, the big 4th down that helped them take the lead to end the first half. He's not afraid to throw it. He's not afraid to give A.J. Brown a chance, because A.J. Brown is one of the best contested 50-50 catch guys in the entire league. Something the Eagles beat writers love to focus on that I had never heard so much since A.J. Brown came to town was he's very good at late hands, meaning the defense often, and if you go, it's something you don't notice until you really are even aware of it or look out for it. But if you go back and watch A.J. Brown on like deep catches, he's very late to show when his hands are going up for the ball. So the defender who has his eyes normally forward trying to keep up on it with A.J. Brown, he doesn't have time to react and try and swat the ball out. So A.J. Brown in one very swift motion is like, boom, caught the ball, bring it in. And that's what makes him
all the timing.
Exactly. And Jalen Hurts and him are very good at that. They always have been, and they've only gotten better. And I think if they get that matchup that they like, they have to be able to take advantage of the man coverage when it's there, especially if they like the matchup with A.J. Brown down the field. And if it's zone coverage, then the Eagles just need to, I think, not force the ball, which, again, they've been fairly good at this season because they have Saquon Barkley, and that helps a lot when you can add that wrinkle to your offense. But yeah, I think those are a couple huge things, other than, very kind of obvious ones that, get after the quarterback. Jalen Carter should have a great game because he's a really great player. All the things that they've been doing all season are obviously going to be keys. Saquon Barkley, I think if the Eagles win this game, there's a very good chance that Saquon Barkley is the MVP. Because
we have that question coming up.
Yeah, and
I'll let you explain it in a minute.
I'll save it. Yeah.
Some keys to success for me is I don't know where to start. Okay, so defense, right? I really love CJDJ. He is a huge key to success for this. I was pulling up a stat before. Was that he has 6 interceptions and only allowing a 62.2% completion rating in pass coverage. There was a lot of conversation about him covering Worthy, possibly, and how a lot of Eagles fans would want that. And I think he's a huge key to success in this. I think turnovers in the passing game are incredibly important here. And that goes hand in hand with blitzing, right? Blitz all the time, often do it, keep doing it. And in relation to what I said earlier is they have to focus on keeping Patrick Mahomes contained. They have to keep him where they want him and force Mahomes, and it shores up everything else. The defense is good enough to play those games. And I think a lot of that comes down to this. It's, Saquon Barkley being able to manipulate holes and find his way through the offensive line. And he's had no problem doing that this year in any scrum, in any disgusting in the trenches game. He finds a way. And there was one other thing I was going to say, but I don't remember. All right, we'll move on. Those are my big things.
All right.
Okay.
What do you got for us next?
I'm going to ask you, if the Chiefs win, who you think the MVP is going to be?
I mean, I'm going to rule out Patrick Mahomes because that's boring.
Chris Jones.
I'm going to go with Travis Kelce.
Okay. I'm going with Chris Jones because I think a huge part is stopping Saquon Barkley. And I think if they're able to win, that's going to be a huge point to look back on. Like the announcers being like, how did this happen? It'll be stopping Saquon Barkley. And I think Chris Jones is like the key to that.
What are the current Super Bowl odds for MVP?
Let's grab it.
FanDuel Sportsbook.
Saquon is the favorite. What?
Oh, on FanDuel, Patrick Mahomes is the favorite at plus 120.
Oh, sorry, I have it backwards. Yeah.
Saquon's plus 250, then Jalen at plus 370, and a very large jump to Travis Kelce at plus 1,400, Xavier Worthy at plus 1,300, AJ Brown, Chris Jones down there at plus 6,500. That's a good bet. I think if I was making a bet, I would probably make that bet.
Yeah.
like just from a pure, like I can throw $1 down on it. And
Yeah.
I think he probably has a better chance than Marquise Brown, Xavier Worthy, Kareem Hunt. Like those are guys that are above him, and I would put him to having better chances.
Okay. And the Eagles.
Saquon Barkley. I mean, obviously, like it could be Jalen Hurts, and I think that's very realistic. But I think the odds just kind of have it right now. Where not to say they can't win if Saquon doesn't have a big day, but like if Saquon has a big day, the chance, like the percentage chance of them winning goes up exponentially. If the Eagles won in 70% of those scenarios, I would say that Saquon Barkley is probably the MVP, with the other 30% being divided among Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Jalen Carter. Even, screw it, Zach Bond. I might put $1 down on Zach Bond because he's going to have a lot of tackles. Give him a fumble recovery, a forced fumble, a fumble recovery, maybe a pick, and like 10 tackles. He's the MVP. Well, they have been insane at forcing fumbles this season. The Eagles defense, really, really insane. And Zach Bond is in a position to make a lot of plays. So actually, what does he have odds? Zach Bond is plus 12,000.
Throw $1 on it, win 120.
Yeah. Also, Dallas Goedert, also a fun little. I think
fun.
I would sooner. He has the same odds as Zach Bond, and I think I would probably bet him over AJ Brown or DeVonta Smith. So
I actually can kind of see that. Yeah, I mean it's Saquon.
Yeah,
it's not much else.
I'm gonna put money down on Zach Bond, by the way, after we get off.
You should do it. I'm gonna put money on Chris Jones because I actually really believe that. I wanted to go over one thing that I meant to talk about in our first section, which is the referees for the game. Ron Torbert will be the lead referee, the head referee. With him is Mike Morton, Max Casey, Mark Stewart, Merle Robinson, Jonah Monroe, and Kevin Brown. I had the odds pulled, the information I needed pulled up here, and it's now missing. A huge part, I'm trying to find where it was. Philadelphia has played 8 games with him as the ref, including their first and last games of the 2024 season. The Eagles are 5-3 as a team with him as the ref, including 2-0 this season. This is all from USA Today. He has called just 4 Chiefs games in his career as a referee. The last was the FC Championship 2 years ago in Kansas City. I know he was involved in one of the big controversy plays where Patrick Mahomes was hit late out of bounds. That was a huge part. And part of the I found what I was looking for. I had it in the wrong tab. One of the big things to look out for was roughing the passer calls. He has a higher rate of those. I had that. This is what I was looking for. Okay. I wanted to grab the stats. I had lost the things I meant to talk about it earlier. Top 3 calls made by his crew this season were offensive holding, false start, and defensive pass interference, which were the 3 most common fouls league-wide. One thing that I look for is roughing the passer. This is from Yahoo Sports. His crew called 8 roughing the passer penalties in 17 games. The league average was 0.35, so his was 0.47. Obviously, it's always a story, whatever. And then this is the memorable penalty. That's what I was talking about. In the AFC Championship 2 years ago, Cincinnati, Joseph Asai was called for pushing Mahomes after he'd stepped out of bounds in the final seconds of a close game, setting up the game-winning field goal to send the Chiefs to the Super Bowl. It looked like this article's talking about how it looked like the right one, but it was a huge turning point. And this all comes after comments from the referees this offseason, like the referees union or whatever, talking about how they find it offensive that they think that all of these people are colluding together to make the Chiefs win.
Shocker.
Yay. Okay. All right. Any other facts? Oh, who wins?
I mean, I have to pick the Eagles.
Yeah.
Go
God,
Birds.
no one wins. That's how I feel.
By the way, I did message a group chat with my buddies, and I asked them, if it's not going to be Saquon, who's the MVP. One of them said AJ Brown. He little boys McDuffie for 8 catches, 148 yards, and 2 tutties. One of them did say Bond with a forced fumble and interception and 14 tackles. So yeah, pretty in line there.
Good to know.
So
Good to know.
yeah, just throwing that out there.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna say the Chiefs because I don't like the way this season. I really don't have a desire for either of the teams to win. I just think with the way this season went, like it feels like one of those like of course, like for the three-peat in this terrible season where every single time they won, it was like of course. That's kind of what it feels
For
like.
me, it wasn't a terrible season. I had a great time.
I meant for like the Chiefs, like this like gross season like we were talking about earlier. Okay, let's talk about our fun things that we love to talk about at the end of this show. Let's talk about the commercials first. They're on Fox. They have 30-second ads that were sold pretty much in like spring of last year for about 7 million. It was sold out by November.
7 or 70?
That was wrong. I'll talk about it in a minute. It was a typo because the next part
Got
is in the Forbes report, there were like 10 30-second spots remaining in November, fairly recently. They had sold for a record $8 million, the final few. Interesting trends from Forbes is that 40% in 2012 of all ads were car makers, where it's only 8% last year, and 15% were alcoholic beverages, 8 this year. And the big themes of the ads this year are apparently artificial intelligence and pharmaceutical ads. And with last year going into overtime, it was estimated that CBS earned $695 million in ad revenue. It's crazy. Do they have like a contingency plan? Like, do people like buy a spot like, hey, if this goes to overtime, give me that ad?
I think they just replay them, to be honest.
Okay. Interesting. Do they get charged though? You know what I mean? Like, that's still a business.
Of course they get charged. I'm sure they have like in their contracts, like, hey, if it goes to overtime, would you be willing to pay for an extra spot or something like that? Like,
yeah. Interesting.
I don't know.
I am going to skip that for 1 second. So the national anthem, Louisiana native John Batiste, who's a composer, musical prodigy, Grammy, Oscar, and Golden Globe winner, is going to be singing the national anthem. The over-under is at 120.5 seconds. Fun fact, if the national anthem was sung as it's kind of designed with beats per minute, it would be 1 minute and 19 seconds. Since 1990, 14 singers went over the 120-second mark. Most recently, Chris Stapleton in 2023 at 121, even though that was the under because his line was posted at 125, which was high. The longest ever was Alicia Keys with 2 minutes and 36 seconds. She was 21 seconds over her line. Since her, 7 of 11 singers have gone over the 120 mark. And the shortest in history was in 1987, where Neil Diamond sang it in 62 seconds.
That's a good anthem right there. That's a
Crazy.
Good anthem. That's the way to do the anthem.
Is there a prop bet on will Nick Sirianni cry during the national anthem? Do you think I could find that?
I'm sure they have prop bets for everything.
Answer, yes.
Yeah, probably. I mean,
yeah.
I don't even care.
I
hope he cries. I'm gonna be happy.
Yeah, we'll do the halftime show last. For economy wise, let's talk about the economy. 203.4 million people plan to watch the game. I do want to jump back a little bit, where last year's Super Bowl had a record of 123.7 million viewers. What they were calling the Taylor Swift effect was that women and females accounted for 47.5% of the Super Bowl audience, and they had over 1 year growth of 24% for women aged 18 to 24. So that was they considered it the Taylor Swift effect. 113.7 million people will either host or attend a Super Bowl party, and the worst people ever, 17.8 million, will watch the game at a bar or restaurant. Would you ever?
Only if I debated going to one in downtown Philly this year, because if we win, then I can go right on Broad Street. I get it. I would only do it if it's my team and I'm going to a local bar. That's the only situation I can see.
Okay.
I'm not keen on it. Not my preferred, but yeah.
I don't even really like watching regular games at a bar.
I do it again if it's in Philly.
Yeah, but it has to be very specific circumstances for me. Like I still want to be able to hear and listen, and I feel like I get distracted in a bar. I don't think I could. 17 million people will be watching this from a bar. Some of the numbers for consumer spending on drinks and food is about $17.3 billion. which is about $86 a person. Where was that number? The survey found 81% of people plan to purchase food or drinks for the Super Bowl. That's the most common area to buy. Next was apparel, TVs, decorations, and then lastly was furniture. And 43% of viewers said that the game is the most important part of the Super Bowl, and 19% said it was the halftime show. 17% said it was the TV ads. Do you remember our fun fact from last year about how this is the second biggest day for takeout food? Do you remember what the first is?
Christmas Eve.
Thanksgiving. It's the second most popular day to order takeout food is the Super Bowl. 48 million Americans, or 1 in 7, are projected to order takeout. Pizza is about 60% of that. Chicken wings, approximately 1.25 billion Super Bowl wings. I'm mixing my words. Chicken wings will be eaten at the Super Bowl. 19.4 million pounds of chips are purchased, and 140 pounds of avocados are purchased for guacamole dips.
Not a guacamole day.
No. Some interesting things from this year is that meat, poultry, fish, and eggs categories of any sort of appetizers and dishes will be more expensive because those are up 4.2%. And possibly the avocados. Wonder why about that too. One of my favorite ones that I found this year is a new survey that a company called UKG conducted. 22.6 million United States employees will call out of work the Monday after the Super Bowl. 12.9 million say they will show up late, and 43% of employed Americans say that the Monday after the Super Bowl should be a national holiday. So fun.
I will likely not, at the very least, not be in work on time.
Yeah, I could imagine that.
Because I was last time. I after the loss, I was last time.
Yeah. Does that mean you saying you think you're going to win?
It means that I've decided now that I have more PTO as I'm longer in my job that I will just take at least a half day.
Yeah.
Because if we lose, I want to be able to sleep. And if we win, I need to wake up and go get my championship gear to wear to the parade. So. And
deal with the hangover.
I honestly, I drank a combined 2 beers during our last 2 Super Bowl. I had a Bud Light, 1 Bud Light for each, and the reason I had one for the first one was Dilly Dilly Philly Philly, and then it worked in 2017, so I did it again in 2022. When the Eagles are in it, I don't tend to drink a lot.
Good, nice. All right, halftime show. The halftime show is headlined by Kendrick Lamar last year.
This year.
Sorry, Mike. What did I just say?
You said it was headlined by Kendrick last year.
Last year, sorry. It was headlined by Usher last year, and it is going to be headlined by Kendrick Lamar. Oh my God, why am I twisting all my words right now? Kendrick Lamar this year. This is coming just days after his night where he won 5 Grammys. And
all for one song.
All for one big diss track. My notes in here say, look at how far being a hater can get you. Truly incredible. Haters up.
It is spectacular.
It's incredible. Someone was like, you think Drake might be having the worst night of his life, the night of the Grammys, but then you remember that
he's having the worst week of his life.
Yeah.
That's
then
for
he
sure.
has the Super Bowl coming up. Yeah.
Definitely having a terrible week.
Hearing the entire country being able to say A minor all at once, you would really not love that if you were him. Incredible. Kendrick Lamar was involved in the Super Bowl halftime show in 2022, the Los Angeles one, where it was headlined by Snoop Dogg and like Eminem. It is reported that SZA will be performing with him. That's kind of like known at this point, I'm pretty sure. Some history. Oh, yeah, sales. Last year we talked about how performers usually get a boost. Last year with Usher, Spotify streams went up. His Spotify streams went up 550%. The opening song he sang had a 2,000% streaming boost, and he had the record of 129.3 million viewers for his halftime show. I believe the number is usually around 50 million of what Apple Music pays to put on the show. The performers work with Apple Music, and Jay-Z and Beyonce are usually the producers of the show. And yeah, we see a huge boost in revenue and streams for performers leading up to and for a decent while after their performance. I have the odds here from FanDuel of Kendrick Lamar's first song performed. The most likely is Humble at plus 115, Not Like Us at plus 210, King Kunta at plus 430, along with Squabble Up, TV Off, DNA, ADHD, Euphoria, Swimming Pools. Yeah, it goes down. Do you have a particular preference for?
I hope he only does Not Like Us.
Yeah,
I hope he does it 5 times.
Like he did in that one where he bought the Bloods and the Crips up in LA and they just kept singing it. Yeah.
LeBron. It just I hope that's all he does.
Yeah.
Because honestly, why not? Why not?
Yeah.
I don't care.
That's fun. I think I really like the idea of King Kunta, but I don't know. It's not going to be Not Like Us. That is not going to open the show. 100% not.
But what if it does, though?
And what if it ends the show, too?
Yeah,
wow.
Exactly.
Mind-blowing. God. All right, I guess I'll just say King Kunta. I actually think that's a good one. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go with that. Looking at the recent Okay, I wanted to grab the odds for how many songs he will perform. You're going to say the under because you just want the one song.
One song.
The over-under is set at 10.5 songs.
Way under.
The over is is plus 100, under is minus 122. There's an odds for how many times will Kendrick Lamar sing Not Like Us. Once is minus 650, twice is plus 540, 3 or more is plus 3,500, 0 is plus 790. 3 or more.
Yeah, that.
I can't.
Give me 1 second. I'll be right back.
Okay. The odds for celebrity guest in order, the most likely is Baby Keem at plus 110, Lil Wayne, Future, Metro Boomin, J-Rock, Doechii, Travis Scott, Tyler the Creator. Janet Jackson's on that list? Interesting. School by Q, Rihanna, ASAP, Eminem. Taylor Swift is plus 750. This is a conversation every year. Now, this is like the new thing we do, is to talk about Taylor Swift and the Super Bowl halftime show. So that's plus 750 for her to be on his show. And yeah, I like the idea of like Metro Boomin. I think that would be, if I'm placing a bet, I think I'm placing a Metro Boomin at plus 184. Some of the other fun ones is odds for Drake to release a song on Super Bowl Sunday. The odds are plus 370 for yes and minus 600 for no. This is really hater. Odds for how many diss tracks Kendrick Lamar will sing about Drake. 1 plus is minus 220, 2 plus is minus 400, 3 is plus 210, and 4 is plus 750. I could see it. I would definitely say at least 2 with Not Like Us and Euphoria. You have Meet the Grams. Yeah. That's wild. What color will his hoodie be when the halftime begins? You can bet on that. What color will his bandana be? You can bet on that. What will his first shoes be? You can bet on that. These are all really fun lines. A lot of them look like they're on FanDuel from what I'm seeing. Do you have a preference on his celebrity guest other than SZA?
No.
Okay.
Drake.
Yeah. Honestly, is that even have a line on here? I need to see that really quickly before we move on. No. Oh, plus 3,500.
I'm betting it.
Maroon 5. I love when they just like start throwing random people in there. Just like in the list that you're like, really? Is Maroon 5? Janet Jackson's on the list. I was surprised about that when you walked away. All right, some other fun bets. Duncan and I were talking about this before the show. Taylor Swift is expected to be, this is a quote from a thing, she's expected to be at the Super Bowl because she's dating Travis Kelce, right? Last year, there was an prop bet of odds of plus 920 for Travis Kelce to propose to Taylor Swift after the game. Now that they've been dating for longer, the odds are better, I guess, plus 750 for Travis Kelce to propose this year. If you'd like to bet no, the odds are minus 1,500.
I would be betting no.
Yeah. There's one more Taylor Swift bet for you. Will Taylor Swift be shown during the national anthem? What do you say?
Yes.
Yeah, that's funny. Yes is plus 350. No is minus 500.
It's a little shocking to me.
Yeah, so apparently, like, the numbers and statistics about, like, celebrities being shown during national anthems is a lot lower than you'd think. But yeah, it seems Vegas doesn't like that idea, but that's surprising to me. I would say yes, easily.
Fair enough.
Number of the first touchdown scorer. That's a fun one we like to talk about. Over 15.5, minus 130. Under 15.5 is plus 100.
Can you repeat that?
Over 15.5 is the more likely, minus 130 odds. Under 15.5 is plus 100.
Wait, for what?
The first touchdown scorer.
Oh,
like the jersey number of the first touchdown scorer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I go over.
What says you? Over. Yeah.
That covers. I guess it doesn't cover like any of the. It doesn't do much for the Chiefs, actually. If you go over, you're basically betting that it's the Eagles.
What are their?
Well, Pacheco's like 10.
Let's see if you're Worthy's number.
They're all single digits, all the wide receivers.
Oh.
Yeah.
I saw one, never noticed
and
that.
And Mahomes is 15.
I didn't think that. Yeah.
So I guess you're betting it's Kareem Hunt or someone on the Eagles. But even the Eagles, it's like you're not getting AJ Brown. You're basically betting it's Saquon.
Yeah.
Or Travis Kelce or Dallas Goedert.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
And to start to close out our show, let's talk about the Gatorade color. In order, they go purple plus 100, yellow/green plus 200, blue plus 600, orange plus 750, red or pink plus 1100, clear/water plus 1200.
Clear. Doing it.
Ew.
Clear.
I don't like that.
I don't care what you like. That's what I'm betting on.
I'm going orange at plus 750.
Coward.
It's not how. Because I didn't want to do clear.
I said what I said.
Terrible choice. Is there any final thoughts? I love the Super Bowl show.
So we have virtual assistants that work from the Philippines at work. We have like one that's a secretary, and she must be a Kendrick fan because like in like our all group chat for the whole office the other day, she just like randomly put like something about like, oh, with Kendrick, like after all the Grammys, you guys excited for the Super Bowl, and like she's from this Philippines or whatever, and she's like,
did she think about the actual part of that you guys are Eagles
fans? And then she was like, yeah, so I guess like I'll be rooting for I'll be rooting for the Eagles this week. And wait, why did I start telling this story?
I said any other fun facts or things you want to talk about.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah.
Okay.
So I responded and I was like, hey, she was like, are you guys excited? And I was like, and like I've talked to this girl like twice. And I'm just like, my entire mental well-being fully depends on how 53 men wearing green perform for 60 minutes on Sunday. So I guess you could say that I'm excited.
Yeah.
And then it got more unhinged because whenever something goes wrong and people think that I can fix it, which isn't very often, they've started putting this meme. It's like the bat symbol, but it just says like Michael. So like so like the other IT dude will just like throw it into the group chat constantly just to piss me off. So I guess she like really hung on to the bat thing, and so she sent a picture of a Batman, an eagle dressed as a Batman. And it just got really weird.
Interesting.
In like a funny way. I just didn't really see
that
coming.
That.
So, yeah.
I love that. Before I have you sign off, there's one thing I want to mention, and it's kind of our hero of the game, and of the podcast of the game, and it's going to be Andre Howard, okay? Young boy Andre Howard, 10-year-old diehard Philadelphia Eagles fan, was hit in the head with debris while protecting his sister during the helicopter crash in Philadelphia last week. He had surgery in Philly at the Children's Hospital. He was hit in the head by metal debris. And some of his first words when he woke up were like, "Is my sister okay?" Followed by, "Did I miss the Super Bowl?"
Well, okay.
Because
so I want to be very clear about this order of operations because he is a Philadelphian hero.
It was first. Sorry.
The first thing he said was, "What day is it?" And they say Monday, and he goes, "Wait, we didn't play yesterday, right?" And his
There we
dad
go.
goes, "No, you didn't miss the Super Bowl." Then he asked if he saved his sister.
There we go. That sounds
So
very Philly. I just
incredible
want
young
to
man.
I
Incredible
want to
young man.
mention it. Him, his sister, and his family are all safe and recovering well. He did protect his sister, in
He
case
did.
you're wondering. And he's looking forward to the Super Bowl. AJ Brown was wishing him a speedy recovery and talking about how, he's a hero and he's going to come visit Andre when he gets back from the Super Bowl. And that AJ Brown says he's playing for Andre on Sunday.
Tyrese Maxey was in the hospital this week too. Player for the Sixers.
Yeah.
So yeah, the very, very
It's more than
very
football.
heartwarming story.
More than football. Always is, always will be. Duncan, where can we find you?
Oh God, one of many places. Curled up in a ball,
Possible.
hiding, crying, for any number of reasons. Over the
Good,
next,
bad, ugly.
how many hours away are we? I don't know. We're like 4 days or something. There goes my flag. Thank you.
We almost made it.
I know. Yeah. So you can find me just
Somewhere.
bleeding green.
Letting the game dictate your emotional well-being.
Yep.
There you
go. Yep. Or you can find me on Twitter at mbduncan75. So.
You can find me on Twitter at Ashley_Marie with 2 A's in Ashley. You can find me, Duncan, and the entire Undroppables crew on our Discord channels, which you can get access to by becoming a patron at patreon.com/theundroppables. You can find me and Duncan here next Wednesday night, recapping the Super Bowl.
Well,
Duncan hopefully still alive, possibly.
Unless we win and the parade happens to be.
Oh, true. Very true. Okay,
so I'm not committing. I'm not committing to anything.
Okay,
actually.
You can find us here at some point to recap the Super Bowl.
There we go.
You can listen back wherever you play the audio in your ears, and you can watch us back on YouTube. Yeah. We hope you have a wonderful Super Bowl Sunday. We hope you have a great weekend. We thank you for bearing with us this season, and we're excited to get through the Super Bowl, and hop on the train for next season. Senior Bowl is happening this week. Plenty of stuff happening soon. Not this week. Sorry, I was confusing Media Week. Media Week is this week. Super Bowl, Senior Bowl is coming up soon. We hope you stick with us for next season. Thank you so much. Have a great Sunday.
Go Birds.
Bye.